Hi, my name is Angelina, and I'm very excited to be presenting my project on circadian and sleep-wake dysfunctions of the hypothalamus and Alzheimer's disease progression. So, Alzheimer's disease is a neurodegenerative disease and is considered the most common form of dementia. And several pathological hallmarks characterize Alzheimer's disease, such as the deterioration of neurons and cognitive dysfunction, as well as amyloid plaques, which are abnormal aggregations of the amyloid beta protein in the brain, and neurofibrillary tangles, or NFTs. Abnormal aggregation of amyloid plaques and NFTs is responsible for the overexcitement of neurons, which causes damage and loss of synapses, and also leads to an imbalance between neurotransmitters and subsequent cognitive impairment. So, as of today, about 50 million people worldwide live with some form of dementia, and this number is expected to reach 152 million by 2050. Aside from affecting individuals and families, Alzheimer's disease and dementia also affect the economy, with global costs estimated at around $1 trillion annually. So it is crucial to study early manifestations of Alzheimer's disease and leverage certain risk factors to find out how to offset the risk of developing or worsening the pathology of the disease. So some manifestations of AD are shown to precede cognitive decline, and certain structures of the brain are affected very early on in Alzheimer's disease. For example, the hypothalamus is shown to be affected very early, and amyloid plaques and NFTs are regularly observed in the hypothalamus of early stage AD patients. The hypothalamus is involved in coordinating the endocrine system as well as the sleep-wake cycle, and also synchronizes signals from the nervous system and regulates circadian rhythms. Specifically, the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the hypothalamus is responsible for synchronizing circadian rhythms. And circadian rhythms are basically cyclical patterns and signals within the body that regulate the timing of physiological functions. These circadian rhythms are entrained by external cues known as Zeitgebers, which include stimuli such as light, temperature, food, and various environmental changes. And aside from the sleep-wake cycle, circadian rhythms are also observed in body temperature, heart rate, hormone secretion, and other physiological systems. So how does the dysfunction of the circadian clock affect the progression of AD? Well, circadian rhythms communicate with nearly all systems and risk factors involved in the progression of AD, and failure to synchronize circadian rhythms reduces the amount of stress that can be tolerated by the body, thus increasing susceptibility to develop disease. Particularly, the sleep cycle, which is regulated by circadian rhythms, is crucial in offsetting the burden of amyloid plaques. And it does this via the mechanism of slow wave sleep, which is a stage in the sleep cycle, which potentiates amyloid clearance via the glymphatic system, which is a waste clearance system involved in the central nervous system. So loss of sleep or sleep deprivation caused by circadian dysfunction is associated with increased amyloid production. Since neurons are spending more time in excited states, they're producing more amyloid protein, which results in further overexcitement, perpetuating a cycle. Studies of AD patients also show a shorter sleep duration and poorer sleep quality in adults with the disease, as well as other changes in the timing and structure of the sleep-wake cycle, such as sleep fragmentation, increased wakefulness, and frequent daytime sleep. Melatonin, which is responsible for regulating the sleep structure, is shown to be circadian in nature and is heavily impacted by circadian dysfunction. Melatonin is key to inhibiting the secretion process of amyloid proteins, and it has also been found to be antioxidant and neuroprotective, which can help offset the burden of AD. And in line with AD progression, it is shown to decrease with age, and it is also shown to be heavily affected by circadian dysfunction. Based on the complex relationship between circadian dysfunction and Alzheimer's disease, a bidirectional relationship has been proposed between the two systems. So circadian disruption of the sleep-wake cycle in particular leads to neuroinflammation, increases susceptibility to disease, which worsens symptoms and hallmarks of AD progression. And on the other side, amyloid accumulation and other hallmarks of AD cause neuroinflammation, which deregulates circadian neurons and results in further circadian dysfunction. This diagram, pulled from Circadian Rhythms and Alzheimer's Disease, further shows in detail the exact mechanisms that result in the progression of AD and the dysregulation of circadian rhythms. So inflammation caused by circadian rhythm disruption decreases melatonin and worsens or sort of offsets other physiological systems, which leads to the accumulation of amyloid beta proteins and exacerbates the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. And Alzheimer's disease is also shown to increase stress and inflammation, which degenerates the circadian neurons. So aside from the sleep-wake cycle, other processes of the hypothalamus are heavily involved in the progression of Alzheimer's disease. And one such system that I found in my research is the metabolic system. Essentially, sleep-wake misalignment causes an unscheduled secretion of insulin, which results in further inflammation of body systems, and too much insulin secretion results in insulin resistance, which is further linked to increased AD risk. And metabolic disorders such as type 2 diabetes, which develop in response to insulin resistance, contribute to the deposition of neurotoxic hormones, and also decreases the clearance of amyloid beta proteins, both of which can contribute to the risk of Alzheimer's disease. Another system that is crucial in the hypothalamus is the immune system. And amyloid plaques are actually found to stimulate cells in the nervous system that secrete pro-inflammatory substances, and also results in a desynchronized response in the peripheral nervous system. And this further results in a higher immunological vulnerability. The third system that I found in my research is the system that responds to stress, which is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or HPA axis, which communicates a series of signals that responds to stress and is responsible for the secretion of certain hormones. Stress-induced alterations of the HPA axis can worsen immune response, further contributing to AD progression. And one specific hormone, a steroid hormone known as a glucocorticoid, responsible for reducing inflammation, also follows a circadian rhythm, and loss of glucocorticoids results in neuroinflammation and further progression of AD. So most knowledge about the circadian system is based on research in men, and women are often underrepresented. But some studies have shown that women do demonstrate an earlier timing of clock gene rhythms and a shorter circadian period. This suggests that nighttime impairment is greater in women than in men, and that women are more affected by abnormal sleep schedules. So because women are shown to need more sleep and sleep regulation, this may imply a difference in susceptibility to neurological diseases. So, using what we know about circadian rhythms, how can we develop treatments or possible interventions to prevent or diminish the onset of the disease? Well, to start, we can leverage certain Zeitgebers to reduce the influence of circadian dysfunction and regulate the circadian clock. For example, scheduled exercise and proper meal timing, so 3 meals a day of good meal quality, would help to regulate regulate the circadian rhythms. Also, having a regular sleep schedule and reducing caffeine and alcohol in the diet, and restricting artificial light close to bedtime, which is a particularly powerful Zeitgeber. A possible treatment for circadian dysfunction is bright light therapy, which is exactly as it sounds. It is bright light used to treat the dysfunction of these rhythms, and it has been shown to be effective in decreasing daytime sleep and increasing nighttime sleep, thereby improving sleep-wake structures and also improving cognition. Melatonin, also due to its neuroprotective properties, could also be used as a possible treatment to inhibit the aggregation of amyloid plaques and NFTs. So to conclude, there is a complex relationship between circadian rhythms and AD pathogenesis. The hypothalamus has been shown to be affected very early on in AD, and it's also shown to be highly influential in AD due to protecting against certain biomarkers and interacting with systems involved in AD development. Other hypothalamic processes are involved in the dysfunction of circadian rhythms, so making sure these systems are in good health would be beneficial to preventing the growth of the disease. And because circadian rhythms vary for certain groups of the population, such as women and men, treatments should reflect this and be personalized to the individual. Thank you so much.